Hello, this is astrologer coach Sonja Francis, and today we're going to be talking about the upcoming full moon in almost 12 degrees of Taurus, which will be exact on November 3rd at 10:23 p.m. Pacific time in the US, which is also the West Coast and LA time, or November 4th at 1:23 a.m. Eastern time and 5:23 a.m. London time. All right, so all full moons offer an opportunity for us to see things in a new light, and they help us guide us towards balance and integration of some sort. So, because the sun and the moon are exactly opposite each other, so there's some kind of awareness that gets created there. And so integration is required rather than polarization or division, right? Like rather than pulling us into two different opposites, we want to bring the two opposites together and find a balance there. So the full moons also illuminate the truth and consequences of our choices that we've previously made. So it's a real great time for major awareness, right? And in that spirit, I will make a really exciting announcement towards the end of my video, so stay tuned to hear all about it. But first, let's talk about the full moon. So the sun in Scorpio and the moon in Taurus, right? We can expect a heightened sense of tension between the realms of light and dark, physical and emotional, and conscious and unconscious realities. And this full moon is also going to be a super moon. And so super moons occur when the moon, it doesn't matter if it's a full moon or a new moon, but when the moon is at its closest distance to the earth, and therefore, because the moon is closer, it's more powerful. The gravitational pulls between the moon and the earth are more powerful, and we feel that on a physical and emotional level. And so since all full moons tend to flush up what's been in the shadow or what's been unconscious or denied before, our emotions could be a little bit more revved up during the time of the full moon. And this is especially true for a super full moon, of course. Now, this could very well mean that we need to have even greater awareness for this particular full moon than for a regular full moon around the issues connected to this full moon's energy, right? So the issues around Scorpio, Taurus, that polarity. So let's take a look at that in more detail so we can see where we can bring more awareness to our next 2 weeks, right? Now, on the one hand, the Scorpio energy, the sun is currently in and has been in for a while. Scorpio's highest vibration is all about us connecting to our deepest passions, letting go of emotional attachments or traumas from the past. In other words, it's really about overcoming our fears and connecting deeply and intimately and authentically to ourselves and others. So Scorpio really teaches us how to embrace all of who we are, not just the parts that we feel comfortable with, but all of the parts of all the facets of ourselves, right? So we can be authentic, and therefore, once we're authentic, we stand in our authentic selves, we can feel really empowered and powerful in the world. And this comes, though, from an inner process. It doesn't come from something outside of us. That's an inner process, right? Now, Scorpio ultimately teaches us that every ending also has a beginning, right? Because Scorpio is all about letting go or detoxifying us from the stuff that's dead or doesn't work anymore. So that ending of letting that go and releasing some of these things is also a new beginning in our journey towards greater empowerment, right? So on a lower vibration though, Scorpio tends to bring up trust issues. We tend to have a little bit of an issue around trusting either ourselves, other people, life, circumstances, and so on. There's also can be a black and white thinking that can happen with the Scorpio energy, especially with Mercury also being in Scorpio. So there's this sense of like, yes, no, this is it, or this is it's not it. It's a very divided type of thinking, right? Now, addiction to drama and darkness can be also part of the lower vibration of Scorpio, as well as possibly to substances as well, because if our inner life feels trapped or caught in the darker realms of Scorpio, we tend to reach out to substances, chemicals, or anything that help us feel a little bit less trapped or feel a little bit less in the dark, right? And so anything that we want to prevent from happening is also part of that, you know, drama or darkness that we can find ourselves in sometimes with the Scorpio energy. Now, we could find ourselves coming from an instinctual self-protective place with that, with the Scorpio energy, because we're trying to prevent something bad from happening that has happened or has occurred in the past, right? So anything that has an emotional wounding or emotional trauma to it, we want to protect ourselves from that happening again. So there's a very instinctual, animalistic, self-protective place with Scorpio that can take place in the lower vibrations of Scorpio. On the higher vibration of Scorpio, we can very much tap into a very strong intuitive place that has more spaciousness, is more love-based, and has more trust, right? But we need to get to those vibrations, to those higher vibrations, by first accepting and embracing, you know, all the other stuff that has come before, right? So any kind of traumas or any kind of lower vibrational energies that we have explored or experienced in the past, we need to embrace that first in order to, or acknowledge them first, in order to move into the higher vibrational places for Scorpio. Now, the other pole with this balancing act, right, is the moon in Taurus. And Taurus, the highest vibration of Taurus really has to do with seeking a healthy relationship with the physical world. You know, that has to do with our own physical body, with the planet that we live in, with our personal resources that we have, like money or assets or our own talents that we bring into the world. And also it has to do with our highest values. Taurus is very much about what do I value, what's important to me, what makes me happy, right? So we learn about the power of beauty, for example, with Taurus, and what makes us happy on a physical level, what keeps us comfortable and safe, right? And so we develop our talents and a sense of self-worth in the world, and that through that we can discover and manifest what we truly value and enjoy, right? And that's the Taurus component. So as you can see, the Taurus component is much more earthy and grounded and has more to do with the physical world than the Scorpio energy has more to do with the emotional world, right? And our traumas. So if we are to experience the highest vibration of Taurus, a healthy sense of self-worth is really critical, because if we don't have that healthy sense of self-worth, we tend to hold on and grab towards the physical stuff, you know, like the material stuff, I should say, right? Like having money, having possessions, having things. It gives us sort of like a sense of feeling better about ourselves, and gives us a sense of safety. But really, it's not a substitute for actually feeling really good about ourselves and being completely happy, right? It can be an add-on if we're already happy, but if there is some kind of like not feeling good about ourselves, any type of material possession will not substitute and make that any better, right? So things you want to ask yourself here with this full moon energy, and in particular with that Taurus energy, is what matters most to me? What makes me happy deep down? So not just the superficial stuff, but if we go a little bit deeper into our emotional world, what makes us truly happy? And what is in the way of honoring our gifts and talents? Because our gifts and talents is what can really have us get connected to that sense of self-worth, right? So what is in the way of really honoring my gifts and talents, right? So that's what you can really ask yourself. And of feeling confident and valued in the world, right? Because we can only feel confident and valued if we're actually getting connected to the value that we're offering, to those gifts and talents that are that we have and that we have to offer. So one thing to look for here is to make this an inside process, to make this an inside job, which the sun in Scorpio supports us with that, right? To go within, to kind of like go inside of us and really check to see, in what way is this true for me from the inside out. And another question, or another two questions you can ask yourself: what if I was the only one of me there will ever be, and what might my value be then? And I think these are some very beautiful questions. So with all my questions, of course, remember, you can meditate on them, you can journal on them, you can simply have them in the back of your mind throughout the next 2 weeks as the energies are unfolding as they are, and just kind of tap back into these questions. And if you don't want to write them down right now with the video, they are available on my website via my weekly forecasts after October 29th. And you can also sign up to receive them via email in your inbox if you'd like in the future by emailing us at info@astrologercoach.com and just write weekly forecasts in the subject line. All right? So that's available. Now back to the full moon. In Taurus, we discover what we most require. Right? So what do we need to feel good and to feel safe, right? In terms of the physical world. In Scorpio, we explore what we most desire, and what we get to see is also what we most fear, what we're most fearful about with Scorpio. So there's the, higher and the lower vibration in that sense, the desires that we have and the fears that we have. Now fear, like everything else, is energy. All feelings that you can explore or experience are energy, and fear is one of those feelings and is also energy. And so if we focus on what we don't want instead of what we do, it will stir up uncomfortable sensations in our feeling body. It's just kind of like a natural thing that happens with the mental processes and the emotional processes. They all work together. It's all interconnected, right? And so is the physical body with the rest of it. So, if we focus on what we don't want, we'll stir up uncomfortable sensations in our feeling body and subsequently also in our physical body. And so for the next 2 weeks, I want to just invite you to get in touch with your physical body and just check in periodically and see where might you be experiencing sensations that either feel dense, like kind of like tight, or uncomfortable, something in your body that might feel uncomfortable. And here's some questions you might find helpful with this process as you're checking in with your body. Where in my body do these sensations show up? And how could I simply give myself permission to feel these sensations rather than try to label them, manage them, change them, or figure out what to do about them, right? Because very often when we have feelings or sensations in our system, very often what we do is we immediately go like, this, I'm naming the feeling. Or even if you can't name the feeling, you want to kind of like get away from the feeling, or you want to manage it or change it, or you want to figure out where it came from and how it came to be that it's here now and what you can do about it and how can you not feel that way and all that stuff that we do, right? So, but what if feelings just want to be felt, right? So rather than trying to label them, manage, change them, and figure out what to do about them, right? How can you give yourself just permission to feel what's there, right? To experience the sensations. And how might my breath give these sensations love, space, and acceptance? And I think that's a really beautiful process to go through, right? And now if you close your eyes and just visualize the energy in your body, right? Just check to see, is there anything that's holding, anything that's moving? Just sensation-wise in your body. And then ask yourself, could I simply notice the sensations in my body that are going on right now? And could I notice the space that is around and through those sensations? And just kind of check in, really check in with your body, really check. Don't make this a mental exercise, really make this an exploration of what's going on in your body. So could I simply notice the sensations that I'm experiencing right now in my body? And could I notice the space that is around and through those sensations, that is present around and through those sensations? And then as best as you can, go back and forth between acknowledging the sensations and the space between the sensations until you feel no separation between those two polar opposites. Now, another thing in this full moon chart is that we want to talk about is Venus, because Venus rules Taurus, right? It's the traditional ruler of Taurus, as well as Libra. And Venus is currently in Libra, in close opposition to Uranus at 26 degrees of Aries. So what does that mean? So this opposition suggests that to love and value ourselves, we need to realize that we are individual, unique beings, and as such, we need to allow ourselves to have some space from others, as well as allowing our differences when we do interact with other people. So this could bring some restlessness right there, because Uranus tends to be sort of like an energy of like wanting to shift something or wanting to change or break away, right? So there's this desire to break free in some way. So this is perhaps related to our finances. It could also be related to just one-on-one relationships with other people. But as best as you can, don't take things too personally and stay as flexible as possible. Try to see if you can just stay open. Right? Excitement is a good way to go with this here, right? Because Uranus also has to do with excitement over something new in particular, right? That can really serve as an antidote to rash or impulsive decision making right now, or connecting with other people. That could actually threaten to interfere our relationships or any of our personal goals. So just see if you can get really excited about something new that could be unfolding in your life, or that is soon to be unfolding in your life, or something that is already unfolding in your life, right? So get excited. And as best as you can, balance togetherness with having some space. Find that healthy balance for yourself and see what that is. And we could also be kind of caught off guard here somehow. So stay open-minded and flexible. Again, this is very important. And ask yourself, with this opposition, ask yourself, if there was a way to fully express my individuality in my relationships with others without the need to pull or push away, what might that way be? What would that look like, right? So just allow yourself to be with that question. Again, you don't have to answer these questions right away. Just allow yourself to sit with that. And could I shake things up a little without going too oppositional? So in our relationships, or also with our finances, with ourselves, with our own sense of self-worth, could I shake things up a little without going too oppositional, right? And so this aspect also shows us that happiness really lies neither in separating ourselves from others completely, nor in always trying to please other people. Right? So there's that Libra energy of like wanting to please others, and then there's that Uranian energy in Aries that just wants to go, I just want to be me and away from everybody, right? So, but the happiness that we seek doesn't lie in one extreme or the other. It really is about discovering and honoring who we really are in our relationships, and to kind of own our own special flavor and our unique coloring that is inside of us, right? What makes us different or unique, right? Like this inner spark that we have, that is special about us, right? That's sort of like, like a snowflake. How when you look at snowflakes, no snowflake is the same as any other snowflake. They're all slightly different from each other, even though when you zoom out, they look very much like they look exactly the same. But when we go really close and take a closer look, we can see these snowflakes are all different from each other, right? And that's the truth with human beings too, right? We are all different from each other in subtle ways, right? Now, there are several quincunxes as well with this full moon chart. So we want to talk a little bit about that as well. Venus in Libra, quincunxes Chiron in Pisces, and Mercury in Scorpio, quincunxes So it's a hard word to say. Quincunxes, Uranus in Aries, right? Now, what does that all mean for those of us who are not familiar with these expressions? Basically, with any aspect like that, there are a nudge to kind of pay attention more towards, sort of like what we really need, detailed, and willingness to kind of think outside the box a little bit. And so I heard an expression the other day that definitely applies to these quincunxes, which is life is a series of adjustments. And I really loved that expression because that seems to ring true quite a bit right now, right? Because we've had a lot of these quincunxes in past lunations as well, right? So life is a series of adjustments. Now let's talk a little bit about Venus and Chiron in that relationship. Now Venus, that quincunx with Venus and Chiron brings up sort of like an awkwardness in social situations. We might feel a little bit unsure, insecure, whether we want to actually connect with other people, and whether we want to have this harmonious connection, or if we want to just kind of turn inward and work more on our own healing process, licking our old wounds or the places in us that have felt wounded in the past, right? And so the key here with this quincunx is really to look for forgiveness in some larger sense, right? It doesn't have to be specifically towards any individual, but just in the larger sense to step into a sense of forgiveness. And to just also remember that we're all divine beings who have taken physical form. And as such, we face the complexity of relating to many levels of ourselves, right? There's the physical, there's the emotional, there's the mental, the spiritual, and the energetic level that we're operating on, right? And so that's all of that is before other people even show up in our lives. We have to deal with all of that within ourselves, right? So what we really want to ask ourselves here is, how might I approach my relationships differently, considering all those levels of my being? And just remember, like some people feel more comfortable on the physical level. Some people feel more comfortable on the mental or the emotional level, or some people feel more comfortable on the spiritual, energetic level, right? But it's really about knowing that we operate on all those levels, not just one of them or two of them, right? And that's the challenge, really, isn't it? That we're dealing with being spiritual beings in a physical body, right? And then another question you can ask yourself here with this aspect is, what would forgiveness say to me if it were standing right here? So what would forgiveness say to me if we're standing right here? And I think that's a beautiful question. And again, don't answer that question right away. Just allow yourself to sit with that and feel into that and let the answer come to you in some way, shape, or form, right? Now, as best as you can, bring a good dose of compassion and understanding to your inner healing process, to that inner wounded child, and embracing your own humanity, your own insecurities as much as possible. And, maybe it might be, there might be a responsible approach that could contribute to that inner healing process. If you kind of like owned, that process, if you owned, the inner wounded child, if you took responsibility for that, that's your wounding, that those are your insecurities, that they have occurred a long, long time ago, and that you own that that's a part of you in a responsible way, and also in a very kind and compassionate way, how could that approach contribute to your inner healing? And that's, I think, a really beautiful question, right? Now let's take a look at Mercury and Uranus in that quincunx. This invites us to hang out with some inner discomfort rather than push through or break away. And it could be really hard to make decisions with that aspect. And this is only going to be around for a couple of days. So we're not going to be feeling that aspect for too long, but it is part of the full moon lunation. So you might feel a resonance of that for the next 2 weeks, right? So we tend to feel a little uncomfortable. There's a sort of an inner itchiness that we're feeling, right? Maybe also a little bit of an uncertainty feeling. And so as best as you can, you give yourself time to respond. Allow your breath to ground you, instead of like being in this energetic itchiness, right? Allow yourself to just let the breath kind of put you more into a grounded place. And keep in mind that impulsive communication might really backfire right now. And so flexibility, again, is really key here. With all of these quincunxes, flexibility is really key. And just ask yourself, what calls out to be adjusted from the inside out? Because quincunxes are also inner processes. Again, it's like an inner discomfort that we're feeling, right? And then ask yourself frequently, in this moment, am I perhaps actually okay? No matter what I'm experiencing with that inner itchiness, in this moment, am I perhaps actually okay? And if I don't go into memory or make up imaginary future scenarios, if I just look here and now, in the present moment, is there actually anything wrong with right now? And this is a very powerful question. So I really just want to invite you to really ask yourself this question as often as you can, because it's going to be very helpful. And then again, as best as you can, use your breath to refocus your mind and bring it back into the present moment, because the mind is very good at jumping around and going to all different types of places, past, present, future. It's very good at, it's like a little bit like a monkey that jumps from tree to tree, right? That's why they call it monkey mind sometimes in yoga, right? But the present moment, the way we can really get in touch with the present moment is through our breathing and through our physical body, because the physical body is always here now. The physical body cannot be in the past or in the future. It can only be in the here and now. So the breath is really helpful to guide us back, to guide the mind back into the present moment and get really connected to the physical body again, right? Now, another aspect with this full moon chart is Venus sextiling Saturn. This brings an opportunity to form long-term commitments with other people and to be more practical, to appreciate maturity a little bit more. And so here you can ask yourself, do I live in accordance with what I truly value, especially in my relationships? And where would I put boundaries to communicate a healthy sense of self-love? And I think that's a very powerful question, because as human beings, we don't always have a very healthy sense of like what is a healthy boundary in relationship to other people, right? It can be a little bit difficult sometimes to connect to that. We either set boundaries that are too harsh and too hard and too rigid, or we don't have the ability to say stop, or we don't have the ability to say no. And so where would I put boundaries to communicate a healthy sense of self-love? And just remember that, if you love yourself, what could you say to another person in a loving and gentle and kind way that could set a healthy boundary between you and them, right? And it doesn't have to be harsh, it doesn't have to be rigid, it doesn't have to be hateful, but it has to do with loving and honoring yourself, right? Now, could I allow myself to take my time instead of rushing into something, right? Especially also, again, in regards to how we relate with something, or with either our long-term goals or with our relationship with other people, right? And on a financial level, we get a chance to get real about what comes in and goes out. And so this maybe could even manifest our desires in the outer world, that we can actually manifest what it is that what we want to have in our lives, right? Now, this hinges on making adjustments as well and staying flexible with regards to our own inner healing process. Because remember, Venus is quincunx Chiron as well as sextiling Saturn. So Venus is making two aspects to two different planets. And so therefore, some of that manifesting that we have the opportunity to be doing also needs to honor that inner healing process at the same time. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is Neptune in Pisces making a sextile to the moon in Taurus and a trine to the sun in Scorpio. And that's a really important part of this full moon chart as well. because this combination really opens up the doors to all the energetic levels out there, you know, to all the mysterious out there that maybe isn't so obvious to us all the time because it's not something we can necessarily see or touch or use our physical senses with, right? So with this Neptune placement making this connection to the full moon energy, our sensitivity and creativity and intuition and imagination is very much heightened during the next 2 weeks, right? So by tapping into our 5 senses and what's beyond the 5 senses, right, we get a chance to truly connect with all of who we are, the physical, emotional, mental, and energetic body that really coexist in the realm of our experience here on Earth, and what is true for all Earthlings, right? And it's what I already mentioned earlier with that Chiron aspect to Venus, right? That we really need to, through that Neptune sextile and trine to the sun, we're getting a chance to truly connect all these parts of ourselves in a kind way, in a compassionate way. And so here you can ask yourself, what practices might support me in tapping more fully into all of my senses, including the 6th sense, right? Because, I mean, we all know what the 6th sense is, right? We all know that that's like our third eye. That's like the place where we can tap into something that's not readily perceived by seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, right? Which is our other senses, our physical senses. But it is also important to not disconnect those 2 realms, right? To not disconnect the 6th sense that we have from our physical senses, because the power lies in really integrating all of it, in really connecting all of it, the physical, mental, emotional, and energetic. Okay. Now I also have a beautiful quote in the weekly forecast section for November 4th that sums that up very nicely as well. So feel free to check that out as well. I didn't want to like read that out to you guys right now because that seems a bit dry and weird. But I think if you read it on your own, you will find it really supportive and helpful. So feel free to check it out on my website, astrologercoach.com. And just remember, you can also get the weekly forecasts in your email inbox if you like in the future. If you email us at info@astrologercoach.com and write weekly forecasts in the subject line. All right. Now, Neptune starts its station on November 10th. So a little bit after the full moon becomes exact. And Chiron will also station or start its station on November 25th, so towards the end of November. And we will address both of these station phases in more detail and also in relationship to our own birth charts in our upcoming forecasting forum on November 6th. So feel free to join us. And if you haven't joined us yet, or you don't know what these forecasting forums are, then stay tuned. I will talk a little bit more about that towards the end of the video as well. You can join them live, or you can get a video presentation. And I especially recommend joining the next one on November 6th if you have Pisces as your sun, moon, or rising sign, or if you have a strong Neptune or Chiron signature in your birth chart. And what I mean by that is that if Neptune or Chiron are conjunct your ascendant, for example, or they're very close to your sun, very close to your moon, for example, right, or any personal planets in your chart, then this is going to be a really fantastic webinar for you to participate in and join us, all right? Now, to register, you can go to my website and do it there. But again, I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But back to the full moon chart. The sun in this full moon chart is in very close proximity to Jupiter in Scorpio. And so this really provides fuel for creativity, generosity, but it could also be a little bit of over-optimism and overconfidence that you might be feeling with that Jupiter Sun placement. And so it's a really good time to resolve conflicts, especially within our intimate relationships and financial partnerships, right? Because it is Scorpio, it's in the Scorpio energy, right? And that has to do with our intimate relationships and financial partnerships. Now, we might feel quite perky and alive with that Sun-Jupiter conjunction. So take advantage of that energy and do maybe a little bit of self-promotion, put yourself out there a little, be optimistic and brave about what you want to share. And you can ask yourself here, what might I want to share with others at this time about myself, and how authentic can I get as I'm sharing about myself, right? And what might be possible if I allowed myself to pierce through the surface and to move towards some deeper emotional truth with what I'm sharing, right? So just get really authentic and really honest and tap into, passion is usually a very authentic emotional truth, right? So if you can tap into anything that you feel passionate about and share that is always a beautiful high vibration of Scorpio. Now, Pluto is the modern ruler of Scorpio and is currently in Capricorn, trining the moon and sextiling the sun. So again, there's another planet, just like Neptune. Pluto is making some really beautiful aspects to the full moon. And so this is a very powerful combination that provides an opportunity to let go of toxic behaviors around worth. That could be self-worth and also things that we value in the world. And so this could be an excellent period for our finances. Work we've done might pay off right now, and we can manage our finances a little bit better because we have more attention towards sustainability, planning, and strategy with that combination, while eliminating anything that no longer serves us in the realm of finances or self-worth, right? Or even our long-term goals. Now, we definitely seek a deep, totally authentic connection with ourselves and our long-term goals with this aspect. And so do your best to be completely truthful with yourself and with your motivations and with your needs that you have when it comes to what it is that you're currently moving towards long-term. And ask yourself, how realistic am I about what I can afford in the world long-term? And what does that mean for me long-term, right? And how empowered do I feel about my finances and my long-term goals, or my long-term goals? And so these are all questions that are, again, you don't have to answer any of these questions right away. Just journal on them or just meditate on them. You don't even have to use all of the questions all at once. Use the questions that you feel most drawn to, that resonate most with you, and where you feel like, yes, I would like to kind of maybe meditate on that a little bit more for myself, right? So again, you don't have to do it all, just whatever works best for you, okay? This is just to support you, okay? Because I realize there is a lot of questions, right? But this is just to support you. Now, all of this could also play out collectively, of course, with Pluto being in Capricorn, and we've had a lot of collective stuff happening with that combination. And this could play out between our long-term goals of our governing bodies, because, Pluto is in Capricorn, and our relationship to the Earth's resources, right? Because the moon is in Taurus, which has to do with our Earth's resources. So there might be an opportunity here for us collectively to bring something together. And it's an opportunity. It doesn't mean that it has to necessarily happen, but there is an opening, right? Now use the power of this full moon to really get grounded in your body, break up any stagnation in your system or in your relationships, and accelerate your transformation by immersing yourself in a deep connection to all of life. And that's really what this full moon is about in a nutshell, right? So what you can do here is, nature, for example, the moonlight, the ocean, a river, a stream, just imagine if you sat in silence and connected energetically to some spot in nature, whatever resonates most with you, whatever feels most comfortable for you. What tales might it murmur to you, right? If you really get silent and connect with nature in that way, what tales might it murmur to you? And what if it could both fill you up and ground you deeper into your own body? Like really get more connected to your own physical body. Now, I have another fantastic quote here in my weekly forecast section for November 4th. So feel free, again, if you want to read that quote. I didn't want to, say it out loud in the video because it just seems a little bit too stagnant for me. But feel free to read that. Check out my website at astrologercoach.com, and you can also sign up to receive those emails again to your inbox if you email us and write weekly forecast in the subject line. Now, here are a few final coaching questions for this full moon that you can ask yourself and meditate on or journal on. And again, you don't have to. This is just to offer some support for the next 14 days. And here's what they are. So if letting go always brought more freedom, what would I dare to release? And if I knew for certain that holding on kept me small, could I then simply let go? And might that give my higher power the space to support and guide me? And I think those three questions are really amazing because, so much of, the Scorpio and Taurus energy is about, either needing to release or holding on, right? It's like, it's a fixed sign, right? So when in the fixed signs, we have a tendency to hold on or to not want to let go, right? We get very fixed about shit, right? So these questions can be very helpful, to just allow yourself to find more ease with releasing, with letting go. And as we're doing that, as we're releasing, as we're letting go, we can start to give ourselves over to a higher power, to a spaciousness within ourselves that can actually support and guide us, right? And so really, really sit with these questions and see what comes up for you if that resonates with you. And then just also remember, gentleness towards ourselves. And I know I say this all the time, but it is just so true. Gentleness creates an opening to heal and become whole. So how gentle could you treat yourself for the next 2 weeks, right? How gentle could you really be with yourself? And especially, with Neptune also being part of this full moon energy, there's sensitivities are going to be there as well. So how gentle can you be with yourself? Now, if you have an ascendant, career point, or personal planets in 10 to 14 degrees of Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Leo, then of course you're going to feel this full moon more strongly. It will affect you a little bit more. But even if you don't have personal planets in those degrees and signs, the house placements in your natal chart affected by the full moon are equally as important. So take a quick look. If you have a birth chart right now in front of you, take a quick look. Which areas of your life need your attention for the next 14 days, right? Where is 12 degrees of Taurus and Scorpio in your birth chart? And how do these houses or these areas of your life need some integration or need some balance? How can you connect those two areas of your life? And if you don't know what I'm talking about here, or you don't have a birth chart, then watch my video, How to Read Your Birth Chart. That video is available for free either on YouTube, or you can also email us to get the high-res version of that video with some handouts. If you email us at info@astrologercoach.com and then write recording in the subject line, and then my assistant will send that to you with the handouts. And it's also, this video, by the way, is also really helpful to learn how to apply what I share in my videos and what I share in my weekly forecasts to your own birth chart, right? How to make that connection. And it's also a fantastic video to watch before joining the monthly forecasting forums. And now, before I talk a little bit more about these monthly forecasting forums, if you haven't joined them yet, if you want to hear a little bit about that, I would like to make an exciting announcement about my business. And I've already made that announcement just a tad bit in my last forecasting forum for some of the people who joined us there. But for all of you who didn't join us in the forecasting forum, I'm in the process of creating an amazing online community for all of us who love astrology or simply want to just explore themselves on a deeper level and live life more consciously. So this process that has been in place for quite a while now is coming to an end. And so I don't have an exact launch date yet for this online community, but I wanted to share that it's coming soon. And with it, My prices and fees for my readings, my online astrology courses, my monthly forecasting forums, and my coaching healing sessions will change. So I just wanted to offer to all of you an opportunity to take advantage of my fees as they currently are. And I will also honor all services that are purchased right now until the new website goes up at this time for a whole year rather than for my usual 6 months. So usually, readings that you purchase or sessions that you purchase expire after 6 months. But if you purchase them right now before my fees change, I will honor these sessions for a whole year. So that way, it gives you an opportunity to stock up on stuff that you definitely know you want to do within the next year, and you can still take advantage of the prices as they are right now. So check out my website and just see what might resonate with you, what you might be wanting to do in the next year, and just think of it as just investing in yourself, like really trying to connect with yourself on a deeper level as you're doing some of these sessions with me or some of these forums or whatever it is that you choose. Now, let's talk a little bit about the forums, because for those of you who've never done them, you might want to know, well, what is this? Why would I want to do that? Well, first of all, know that these forums that I have created, I think I've been doing them now for like 1.5 years or almost 2 years, right? I have created them to just really support all of you who are watching my videos and who are reading my weekly forecast, so that you can tap a little bit more deeper into your own charts. So it becomes more of a personal process for you. And you can ask questions during the forecasting forums. You can interact with me, and we will look together to see how the upcoming energies each month impact all of us personally by looking at our own birth charts. And so just remember, this month for November 6th, the next forum that we're doing, we will look at Neptune and Chiron, the station phases that will start to experience mid and late November. And you can either join us live, or you can register to receive an MP4 video presentation. This MP4 video presentation goes to everybody, whether you join live or not. Everyone receives that within 24 hours of the live event. So if you can't make it on Monday, November 6th at 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern time, or 10 p.m. London time, fear not, you can still watch the whole webinar. Now, but of course, if you can join live, that's even better, because then you have more of an interactive component with me, all right? Now, besides my one-on-one readings, this is probably the highest level of support that you can get. And right now, it's only $24 for the 90-minute webinar. So again, if you want to lock in that $24 for the next several webinars, feel free to purchase as many as you'd like. You can register on my website at AstrologerCoach.com. If you do register, please, please, please also fill out my registration form at the bottom of the monthly forecasting forum page. That form helps me to see if you want to join live or if you just want to receive the video presentation. And also you can ask questions in advance. And I will answer as many questions as I can in the 90 minutes that we have together. Also, if you could ask questions that are somewhat related to the webinar, that is most helpful to everybody, and it's also the questions that I will answer first. Again, all the questions from this video and also the additional quotes that I have mentioned throughout the videos, they are all available on my website at AstrologerCoach.com via the weekly forecast after October 29th. And you can also still sign up to receive those via email by writing weekly forecast in the subject line and emailing us at info@astrologercoach.com. The same is true for my newsletter, which only goes out twice a month, once in a while, 3 times a month if I have another announcement to make. But if you want to just receive the newsletter and not the weekly forecasts, which go out once a week, obviously, then feel free to sign up for the newsletter by just writing newsletter in the subject line when you email us. And the newsletter has everything from like my videos, my announcements about my business, special offers, stuff that I announce about webinars that I'm doing or courses or retreats or anything like that. That's all in the newsletter. All right. Now that's it for this full moon. If you have any general questions, I'm always happy to answer those. However, if you have personal questions that require of me to pull up your birth chart, I will ask you to book a reading with me via my website. So feel free to go to astrologercoach.com and just click on the link next to services, and that's how you can book a reading with me. Any questions that you have that are pertaining to the Neptune station or the Chiron station or something that's coming up in the month of November, then feel free to join the monthly forecasting forum and ask your questions there. All right? That's the most useful, and that's the best I can do for all of you, because there is a lot of you out there and there's only one me. So I have to honor my time in that way. All right? So have a fantastic full moon. And, remember, it's an extroverted time. It's a time where we're dealing with polar opposite energies. We're trying to integrate. We're trying to balance. We're trying to relate to other people. We're trying to connect in a healthy way. So just keep that in mind as you're moving through the next 2 weeks. All right. This is Astrologer Coach Sonja Francis. Goodbye.